live on AMP. For those of you guys who are listening on YouTube or in the podcast feed, remember that on AMP is where we are going to be live first. That is the first place you can get our post-game breakdowns. For those of you guys who don't know how to track that down, I have all the information on my Twitter feed. You can find the links there and follow the show. We are going to be breaking down Bucks Nets, a tough game. The league is unforgiving. If you're playing bad basketball, you don't get to have a 2 or 3 game stretch of cupcakes to fix all of your problems. The Sixers, and we're not going to get to them tonight because I haven't had a chance to watch that game. We'll get to them later. But like with the Sixers, it's like they're playing bad basketball. They're bad in transition. They're struggling with some things. It's like you get the Raptors and you get your butt kicked. Oh wait, now you have them again on Friday. So if you play the same type of basketball, you're just going to get your butt kicked again. The Brooklyn Nets not playing good basketball. We talked a lot about this on yesterday's show. 30th in defense, 30th in defensive rebounding percentages, one of the dead last in transition defense off of turnovers. They're really, really bad in a bunch of different areas of the game. And it's like you get the Bucks tonight and you lose this game, and guess what's waiting for you tomorrow? You got Luka Doncic coming to town. This is just the reality of the NBA in this era. There are no easy games. So, okay, the Detroit Pistons are coming to town. You're getting Cade Cunningham. You're getting Jaden Ivey. You're getting Bojan Bogdanovic. You're getting a lot of talent everywhere around the league. And if you play bad basketball, you are going to lose games. This particular, and we're going to spend plenty of time on Brooklyn here in just a second. I wanted to start with Milwaukee. You guys know my rule. We talk about the winner first. It was a weird game because it was probably the strangest first half of basketball that I've ever seen Giannis play. Mainly just because, Giannis's thing is like, he will have blow-bys and he will beat people off the dribble from time to time, especially when defenders start to get fatigued. But you don't see him, just go around people. He usually goes through people. And so it's not so much about seeing a wall and then that being enough to stop Giannis. You just hope that over the course of the game, you might be able to cause him to miss some layups and things along those lines. But usually he's constantly trying to plow through that wall. And in that first half, it was like he'd kind of look at Claxton or he'd look at Ben Simmons, and then he would just dribble over to the wing and do a dribble handoff with Jrue Holiday. He was very intentional about trying to get Milwaukee's offense running. And, what was funny is Brooklyn also played a good half of basketball. They out-rebounded the Bucks in the first half. Kyrie Irving had put in a great effort on the glass. He had 9 defensive rebounds, I think, in the first half. There was a lot of good things. They made some threes. Everything was looking good for Brooklyn, but then there was this kind of weird cloud hanging over the whole thing that was like, when is Giannis going to try to Giannis his way through this game? And man, he hit the Jets there to start that third quarter, and Brooklyn just had absolutely nothing they could do with him. It kind of, all of you Celtics fans out there who were watching that game probably had some PTSD watching him just bulldoze through every single Brooklyn net, getting foul calls, dunking the basketball, finishing at the rim nonstop. And next thing you know, Brooklyn's 10-point lead is gone. You end up losing, and Giannis walks out of the arena with a smooth 43, 14, and 5. The best player in the world by a significant margin, in my opinion, tried for all of 10 minutes in this game and executed a Brooklyn Nets team that still has a lot of problems. But we're going to get to that in a second. Brook Lopez, I believe he had 6 blocks when I checked. I'm not sure if he got another one before the end of the game. Didn't shoot the ball well. Brook and Jrue Holiday in particular are having bad offensive starts to the season, and it's really causing some issues for the Bucks in spot-up shooting. They finished below 30% again from 3 in this particular game. They could not make a shot to save their life in the first half, and that was my biggest weakness for Milwaukee coming into this season, and it's definitely something that they're going to have to address over the course of the season. I think that once Joe Ingles can get out onto the court, and once Chris Middleton is back out onto the court, that will go a long way to helping with that particular problem. But here in the early portion of the season, it's going to be an issue for them. But if you have weaknesses in certain areas of the game, you can make up for that by having strengths elsewhere. And both Jrue Holiday and Brook Lopez had excellent defensive games. Brook Lopez particularly, you don't get 6 blocks by camping underneath the basket. You get 6 blocks by making what I call out of area plays. You have a defensive responsibility on your team, And that defensive responsibility might require you to do, this particular rotation or that particular rotation. But Brook, in many cases, was going out of his area and outside of his responsibility to make plays. And that's how you end up with 6 blocks when people aren't even expecting you to be there. And again, you can make up for a lot of spot up shooting issues and problems on that front if you are blocking shots at the rim. Think of it like this: 6 blocks, 3 offensive rebounds. That's 6 shots you took away at the rim on one end and 3 extra possessions you generated for your team on the offensive end of the floor. That's the 9 possession swing. So over 9 possessions, that is the difference in this game based on a 1 point per possession type of offense. And the Bucks are probably going to do a little bit better than even that. And so again, those are those little things that this team is committed to that will carry them through poor shooting. Because Brooklyn shot poorly as well. But this is a Brooklyn team that shot poorly and doesn't have those fundamentals to fall back on that can carry them through games like this. So I want to give Brooklyn some credit. They did have a much better defensive effort in the first half. I had a feeling coming into this game that they would look good to start, but my biggest concern for them would be the length of the game and whether or not they could maintain that effort. We talked a lot about this in last night's show. When it comes to, or 2 nights ago, it might have been it was last time we were talking about the Warriors. When it comes to defensive effort, it's not something you fix overnight because you're building habits. You're building connective tissue between you and your teammates in terms of communication and understanding when to rotate and where to rotate, things along those lines. And most importantly, conditioning. It is really hard to do those things. The box outs, the sprinting back in transition defense, the extra defensive rotations, I don't have a man to box out, but I'm going to crash from the perimeter to secure this rebound. All of those things are not fun. So you have to convince yourself to do them, but then there's the next phase, which is the conditioning element of it. Being capable of doing that for an entire 32-minute game for you if you're a starter, or maybe a little bit less if you're a role player, but in addition to having the energy to do all those things that you love to do on offense. Both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant missed a bunch of shots that they normally make in this game, particularly in that fourth quarter. KD had a really good look coming off a pick and roll, wide open pull-up 3 that he missed. Kyrie had kind of a jab step on Grayson Allen on the right wing that he makes frequently, especially when he's in a groove like he was in. Royce O'Neal missed a wide open 3. There was a KD post-up on the right block where he had Drew and he elevated. He was wide open and he just missed the shot. Fatigue will inevitably play a role until Brooklyn builds a consistent effort on that end of the floor over games and games and games to where they build the conditioning, and then it just gets baked into who you are, just like it is for Milwaukee. It's baked into their basketball identity. We do all these little things. And so we can shoot 26% from 3 and win a basketball team against Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving because we have all these little details in our game that are completely baked in. I thought there was a really, really interesting kind of like soliloquy from Jeff Van Gundy that you guys might have heard if you were listening to the ESPN broadcast, where Giannis ripped through Royce O'Neal, Kevin Durant for an and one transition layup. I believe it was in the fourth quarter, and he basically just said like if you're going to beat the Bucks, you absolutely have to put your body on the line. It is a non-negotiable. You cannot possibly beat that guy, Giannis Antetokounmpo, unless you are willing to, for 48 minutes in a regular season game or for 7 games in a playoff series, every time he's barreling down the lane towards you, you have to chest him up and take the contact. As soon as you start to get out of the way and start reaching at the basketball, he's going to beat you every single time. He's too big, he's too strong, he's too athletic, he makes every damn layup, he shoots free throws well enough now. You can't beat them unless you're willing to do that. And I thought it was really interesting that Jeff Van Gundy laid that out because Brooklyn was willing to do it for a half, and I would argue a half that Giannis wasn't being very physically aggressive, but then over the course of that game, they fell apart because they weren't willing to do it for 48 minutes. And it might not even have been about will, it might have been about conditioning, but they have a long way to go on that front. The Nets out-rebounded the Bucks in the first half, and they finished the game down 54-37 in rebounds, which is absolutely insane. So that's how quickly, when they let go of the rope, it was over for them. And this is the last thing I'll say about it. This is not the Lakers. The Lakers have legitimate talent deficiencies. After LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they have a lot of players that wouldn't even make rotations for good teams around the league. They have to try hard even to compete in these games. Brooklyn is very talented. Yeah, yes, Jeff Van Gundy pointed out they have some thin players. That's true. Kyrie Irving's thin, Kevin Durant's thin, Nick Claxton is thin. They have some thin players on the roster. But they also have a lot of length and athleticism and a lot of talent. They have more than enough to construct a damn good basketball team. But right now, they're not doing the work, not consistently enough. Not one half. You got to do it night in and night out over the course of this regular season because the league is too talented. Dallas is coming to town tomorrow. If you play like that again in that second half in this game tomorrow, you will lose again. And so the excuses that we can offer towards the Lakers don't exist for Brooklyn. That, like, the Lakers might go into Denver tonight and get their butt kicked despite defending their asses off and crashing the defensive glass and doing all those things because Patrick Beverley might be their third best player or Austin Reeves might be their fourth best player. There's legitimate talent deficiencies there. That's not the case for Brooklyn. They don't have an excuse. Good start in that first half, but they have to be more consistent with that level of effort.